what to do with this because phone silenced. I have like software that like this is the time for me like a couple minutes just to let people that want to watch live hop on, and I have this software that will let me morning Marcus, April, good to see you guys. um I have the software that'll let me do this like countdown with wake up music and stuff. But if I do that, then I can't see like real time what's going on. And I like to see that even though it's only a dozen or so usually watching. My cousin Paula, hello, good morning to you. I got your mom's favorite 8 o'clock with just a smidgen of Dunkin' Donuts hazelnut, just enough to give it a little flavor. But anyway, I got the software that can like add production to it, but I kind of like just seeing everybody. And Bethany, hello, good to see you. Good morning. Um, I don't know, so I could like just stand off to the side and pipe in music. Good morning, Laura. Um, just kind of serenade you guys off camera because I really just kind of sit there. Morning, Richard. I just sit there and yeah, do this. I stall for a little bit while people join in. So it is April 2nd. It is Thursday, and it's day 21 of the quarantine. My hair is to the point now where I have to actually do it. I've never in my life had to do my hair. So this is a new thing. I actually put a little product in my hair now. Crazy. One of these days I'll just take my clippers and go with trusty number 4 and just cut it all off. But anyway. All right. So this is episode 6, and we're talking about putting religion above Mac Fife. Birthday girl. Hi, Mac. Happy birthday to you. You got a quarantine birthday just like I did. And my hair looks better. Thank you, Marcus. It is covering, like it's as it starts to creep up. I do not look like my dad, Paula. Come on. Now I don't know if I can recover from that. I'm just kidding. Love my dad, and yes, I do look quite a bit like him. All right, so we are looking through the Gospel of Mark. And remember that Mark is one of the 4 Gospels, and the Gospels are the biographies of Jesus. So of the Bible that thick. I see another. I got another birthday boy. Two birthday folks watching today. Quarantine birthdays. I had a quarantine birthday last week, or I think it's 2 weeks ago today, and for my birthday, I had a piece of rye bread with my egg whites. That's the age that I am now, where I'm like, you know what? The heck with it. I'm having bread with my egg whites. It's my birthday. So that was my birthday excitement. So, Gospel of Mark. Gospel of Mark, and one of the biographies of Jesus. And we look at these stories, and each of the Gospels presents a little bit different picture of Jesus from a different angle. Now, one of the things that Mark leads with is he says that Jesus is the Son of God, that Jesus is the Christ, and then he calls him the Son of Man, which is referencing to the book of Daniel, who says there was one like a human who came and brought God's kingdom. Now, here's what Mark's doing, and here's what makes this stuff so important. Mark is saying, look to Jesus for your view of God. Look to Jesus for your view of God. We get our view of God from so many different places, from religious environment growing up, church environment growing up. Some of us get our view of God from stern grandparents or from strict overbearing parents, or some of you have a great view of God because of loving parents. But what Mark is saying, and if I can get anybody to do anything from this coffee and Jesus stuff, it's to look to Jesus for your view of God, and then evaluate your current view of God against the backdrop of Jesus' life and ministry and teachings and how he treats people. And ask yourself this. Here's a game changer question. If you have issues with religion, like if you have just, your blood pressure starts to rise when you think about religion or Jesus, read the Gospels, read Mark, move through this stuff with me, and ask, is that thing I'm frustrated with something Jesus came to bring to religion and church? Or is it something he came to end? Is it something that came to bring, or something? Because a lot of times the things that we get frustrated with, and I hear people, rant about, or I read the Facebook rant, a lot of the things that Jesus hate about religion, Jesus came to end those things. He hated them too. There are a lot of people who think, if I just saw Jesus, I'd offend him with this, killer conversation. I hate this about religion and this about religion, this. And Jesus is probably like, yeah, me too. Yeah, I came trying to end that. So we're looking to Mark for our view of God by looking at Jesus, God in the flesh. So we've seen that Jesus comes on the scene, and we've only been through the first 2 chapters. And Jesus touches a leper, so he's tearing down social constructs. He's tearing down barriers that religion created against people, because if you touched a leper, you were considered unclean yourself. So they were untouchables. Jesus touched them, showing us that God's not afraid to get his hands a little dirty. And then he offers blanket forgiveness to someone who had no access to him, and that got the religious folks all riled up. So he attacks that barrier, and then he attacks rituals for the sake of rituals, and then he attacks rules. He talks through, we talked about that yesterday in episode 5. He attacks rules just for the sake of rules, and talked about a greater purpose in using our brain with rules. Now today, he's going to attack again. He is on the offensive against religion. Now he's going to attack the idea of putting religion above people. And for him, he wants to see people put above religion the way it should be. So here we go. This is Mark chapter 3. And we are looking for our view of God from the way Jesus interacts with people and what he came to tear down and what he came to bring. Okay, here we go. Again, Jesus entered the synagogue, and a man was there with a withered hand. So he has a disability. And they, being the Pharisees, the religious elite, the people who supposedly knew the Bible the most and understood God the most, they're watching Jesus to see whether he would heal on the Sabbath. Is Jesus going to heal on the Sabbath? Because remember, we talked about this yesterday, episode 5. The Sabbath was the ultimate Jewish rule. On the weekend, for 24 hours from sundown to sundown, you could do no work. That was their interpretation of one of the 10 Commandments, which says, honor the Sabbath by keeping it holy. On it you'll do no work. Okay, so they had their ideas of what that meant. And they want to see, is Jesus going to heal on the Sabbath? That's work. Is he going to honor God by following the rule, or is he going to do work and break the Sabbath by healing this guy? See how, like, it sounds so ridiculous, but that's where they were. So they're watching Jesus. And he said to the man with the withered hand, come here. And he said to the Pharisees, is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do harm, to heal or to kill? But they were silent. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know the right answer. Or they thought they knew the right answer and they didn't want to sway Jesus. And he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardened hearts. And then he said to the man, stretch out your hand. And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored. The Pharisees went out, the religious leaders went out, and immediately held council to talk about how to destroy Jesus. So that's how far off the religious world had gotten. Now, couple points as we make this real for us. Number one, look at the word angry. The word angry. Very rarely do you see Jesus angry. Very rarely. And we've seen him already eating with people that the religious world called sinners. So they got this lifestyle going that the religious world doesn't agree with. But he's not angry at that. He seems like he's having a good time with them. Now, I'm sure he wants to see them transcend whatever it is they're doing that's holding them back in life, because that's what sin is it's things ultimately that God says, this isn't good for you. And generally, I think we can agree that most of the things that the Bible labels as sin aren't good for humanity. So I'm sure that Jesus doesn't love that they're involved in these things, but he seems to be having a good time with them. It's not making him angry. Yet he's angered by the religious leaders, and they're putting religion over people. And that's what people talk about. Well, Jesus offended people, and we need to be more offensive. And Jesus only offended religious people. People who were far from God loved Jesus. He was irresistible to them. So if we want to be offensive, let's offend the people that Jesus offended, because it's the religious elite that he generally offended by offering grace and love and acceptance and tolerance and things like that. So Jesus is angry that they put religion above people. He came to tear that down. Now, a couple real life points of application here, and this is controversial. This is just where I am today. When I think about this is what I think about. Number one, let's talk about divorce and abuse. Touchy subject, I know, but Jesus was clear in his a couple times. Jesus said, he was asked if it was permissible for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason, and he says, what God joined together, let man not separate except for marital unfaithfulness. So, I've heard people ask, in an abusive situation, am I allowed to leave my husband who's abusive? And some pastors say, no, you made the decision and you need to honor God and stay in that abusive relationship, because the only grounds for divorce is marital unfaithfulness. Now, I would say, and this is my opinion, but I'm fairly passionate about it. You look at Mark 3, and you look at the fact that yes, Sabbath was an important boundary in Jewish society, but the person and their well-being stood above the rule. Even the rule like Sabbath, which is one of the most important, that was baked into the creation. Sabbath was an important pillar of Jewish society. But the well-being of the person transcended the rule. That's what Jesus came to bring. The idea of the rule above the person, or religion above the person, he came to tear that down. So, abusive marriages, I think you put the person above the rule. I think, of course, Jesus would say, get out of the abusive situation. Second point of application, when it came to canceling services on Sunday, the concept in Scripture is you don't forsake meeting together. The meeting together and the weekend gathering is so important. And a lot of pastors and leaders got hung up on that. But I think when you look at Mark 3, this was very influential in my thinking, the idea that the well-being of the person transcends the rule. You break the rule for the good of the person if you have to. And so when I thought about Sundays, when I talked with our elders about Sundays, I felt like, man, we're putting the rule above the person. If we don't suspend gatherings and instead take digital church to people, you do what's best for the health, the well-being of the person. The people are above the religion, the rules, the rituals. That's what Jesus came to bring. Those are the systems that Jesus came to break down. So, if you're frustrated with God, if you're frustrated with religion, if you're frustrated with church because you see that so often the institution is above the person, abuses people, uses people, whatever, understand that Jesus came to tear all that down. Look to Jesus for your view of God. So think about those things for a little bit, and I plan to be back here on Tuesday at 9 a.m. for episode 7. Have a good weekend, everybody.